Welcome back to Division I Rejects. We got two great guests for you today, per usual. First, we'll be joined by Coach Drew Burton, the run game coordinator at Saginaw Valley State University. And later, we will talk to Northern Michigan quarterback Ryan Johnson, or RJ as he is known. Otherwise, before we get to those conversations, some NFL talk. We got the NFL wildcard weekend coming up on us. We got 3 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday. A lot of really good games. Should be very interesting.
They're calling it the Super Wildcard.
The Super Wildcard Weekend. That's right. I did hear that. So NFL, talk about the Wildcard Weekend. Going to talk about Deshaun Watson potentially being out of Houston, even after the incredible year that he's had on a terrible team, right? They didn't win. They won, what, 3 games?
4.
4. Okay, 4 games. I mean, just ridiculous. Talk about the Falcons a little bit and them opening up some spots, potentially getting rid of Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, some other things, the likes. College football talk, the national championship preview, Ohio State, Alabama. Who do we see coming out on top of that one? When is that played? What day?
Monday.
It is Monday. Okay, got you. But after that, recap of the Heisman ceremony and reactions to Devontae Smith winning the award. It's not a quarterback award, as we figured out watching that ceremony. And we'll finish off the episode with this week's game pick. So stick around. Chilling in the Basement Talking Football. Video is available on YouTube for viewing. Otherwise, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Anchor. I mean, we're on like a ton of different platforms. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts, and let's get right to that first conversation. Our first guest on today's episode of Division I Rejects is a Division II national champion who played at Grand Valley State University. Now he's back in the GLIAC at Saginaw Valley State. He is the offensive run game coordinator along with the tight end coach and offensive line coach. It's Coach Drew Burton. What's going on, Coach? How are you?
How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you. We're doing great. How have you been?
Been okay, man. Just navigating COVID, and obviously things are changing every 10 seconds, kind of like they are for everybody else in the country. So we're just trying to navigate things as well as we can, and excited to get our guys back on campus here in about a week, it sounds like,
okay.
Although always those things change here all the time. But going really well. It's been a really productive offseason for us here.
That's good to hear. Yeah, and we got that weird rule, like the dorms can't open up officially until the 15th now, and like all these things that are going into place. And I know Whitmer was talking even just like an hour or so ago when we were recording this. So like you said, it changes every 10 minutes. Any word on the spring season for you guys? Any potential opponents?
So it sounds like we're going to play, we have a couple scrimmages, I think, that are, we're still kind of TBD in terms of times and dates and opponents and things like that. We'll be regional opponents. That's kind of what we can say in terms of those things. But our guys are fired up. Obviously, we haven't played a football game here in a long time, obviously, and getting a chance to get back and compete a little bit is exciting for guys are fired up, really productive for us, and we're excited to get back going. So
that's good to hear. Yeah, I know Drew had gotten some news from one of his coaches the other day. Like they were just trying to find out about what was going on in the spring. I'm still, pretty much in the dark. And I know our guy from Michigan Tech, who's usually with us, has not heard anything. So it's good to hear they're starting to potentially roll some of that stuff out. And it sounds like we're for sure going to have some type of competition in the spring. Like you said, we have not played football in so long, and I'd imagine it's just as weird for the coaches as it is for the players. I've got this like weird, almost want to say like imposter syndrome, like I don't even feel like a football player anymore. Like I have not put the pads on and gone out to the field like in so long. That concept seems so almost like foreign to me at this point.
Right. And we're the same way. And I think it's been, it was the best fall and it was the worst fall, right? Because we got to learn so much. And obviously you choose a career in football. You love football. And we got to watch kind of what everybody's doing. But at the same time, obviously we lived to play. We lived to compete on Saturdays, and we didn't get to do that. So we tried to, I think, just make as positive a situation as we could out of the thing. And I think our kids did a great job. Obviously, it's just been the new normal with COVID protocols and all those different types of things. Our guys were outstanding, and, just the new normal and all the things that we asked them to do, they did an outstanding job this fall. So we're excited to hopefully, unfortunately, probably going to have to do that for another semester.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can see the light at the end of the tunnel here. I don't know if it's coming, but it seems like it's coming, which is exciting. But going to keep soldiering on here and get everything done that we can. So
yeah, 100%. And I'd agree. Like that's probably the most frustrating thing is like this probably in all reality, like this is probably not over as much as everyone like, yeah, we're rolling out vaccines and everything. Like I'll believe it when I see it, I guess is what I'm saying. Like this is probably not just going to like go under and like shove it under the rug. Like COVID's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? But it'll be interesting. you guys coming back on campus, it's been, I don't know about, what is your guys' break like for the students and your athletes there? Because I know Northern, we kind of consolidated our Thanksgiving and Christmas break, so I've been gone for at least 2 months now, like home for a very long time. What has the break been like for your guys? How long at least?
For us, so we didn't come back after Thanksgiving, so I imagine we probably did almost exactly the same thing.
Probably.
And then depending on what happens or whatever she says here in the next, today or whenever else, we're hoping that we're going to start classes back up that Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. And so that's kind of the plan right now. And if anything, we've gotten infinitely more agile in terms of being able to change plans quickly here during the course of this, because you have to be, otherwise you're in trouble. So.
Oh yeah, seriously. And we've seen, at least I have, when talking, it's great to talk to all these different guys across all the levels, because you can kind of get a sense of who's handling this very well and necessarily who is not. But how do you expect, I know for me, it's been, I go back to campus in a week here, and I've been trying to get back in and maybe not relearn, but just kind of refresh myself on some of the playbook stuff. I know for us, we're installing a new offense, so it's probably a little bit of a different mindset, but what have you kind of done to make sure that your guys hit the ground running when you come back to campus, as opposed to, you got to go through and recoach and reteach everything?
Sure. And I think we're so focused on making sure that, we follow the rules correctly. So everything's got to be, voluntary in terms of our guys and anything. We've been having, a couple different times a week, we'll have a Zoom call and just kind of let guys know where we're at, what types of things are coming up, and just trying to stay engaged with our guys more than anything else. And obviously it's really difficult. And I think we kind of had a list of, potential opponents for what teams that we may potentially get to scrimmage against here in the course of the spring. So I think that was really good for our guys to just talk about some of those things and say, okay, here's some different things that we won't see from our defense that we may potentially have to deal with this fall. And you don't want to ever, grind them or spend too much time doing those things, but just kind of, put some carrots in front of some guys and say, listen, let's keep, grinding the air through this break. And so we can, it's like during the first part of the pandemic. Obviously, it's eventually you sit in your room long enough at home, and guys are just going nuts. So at least we can we can do some different things to talk to guys and just try to keep them engaged and let them know that eventually at some point this is going to end and we're going to get to play some football and hit somebody with a different colored jersey again. And so just trying to find anything we can get excited about, probably getting more excited about than we normally would, but it's obviously a different time than it's ever been. So we're trying to kind of try to mitigate some of those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Coach, looking at your track record, you spent 4 years at Alma College for the offense coordinator for the Scots, and then as well as 4 years at Wisconsin Stevens Point, which is another Division III school. So what was your experience like coaching at that level? And what has been the biggest difference since going to SVSU back in 2018?
Sure. And I think all those things, ultimately, it's such a small circle in coaching. So ultimately, you look at, one part of the resume and it's ultimately going to be connected to the next part and the part after that and things like that. So ultimately, when I went originally to Wisconsin Stevens Point, John Mish and Tom Jurnell is now the head coach at Carleton College in the Twin Cities, and John Mish is retired. And, Jurnell was originally connected to a bunch of my coaches at Grand Valley, and he had been coming up there. And so I had kind of met him through them. I had originally started out and got done in 2006, and I was selling real estate in Grand Rapids during the crash, and I was selling foreclosure real estate. So I was, I always tell the story that I duped my wife because I was 25 years old and I had a 6-figure income. And so she originally got married to a rich, realtor. And then I said, good news, I've got great news. My dearest love, we're going to go take a $9,000 GA job in central Wisconsin. She's never left Grand Rapids in her life. And so luckily, I was better looking then, I guess. She was on board with it, and she was totally behind me, and she knew. We spent that first year coaching for Mike Farley at Grand Haven. So that was how I kind of got in and was still selling real estate at the time. And then went from there to Stevens Point and got a master's degree and things like that. And just kind of got acclimated with that. In 2013, we recruited this kid by the name of Ryan Ramczyk that stayed there for 2 years and then went down to Wisconsin and is now a a Pro Bowl offensive tackle.
Yeah, he sounds
for the
familiar
Saints.
for sure.
Yeah.
I've drafted him in Madden a couple of times.
Yeah, no, you probably had a pretty good team if you did, and so. But tremendous football in that conference, because a lot of people don't know this. Obviously, there's only one scholarship school in the entire state of Wisconsin. So, ultimately, there's a lot of guys that if they want to go someplace and play Division II football or FCS football, they have to go a long way. So, we had some great players there, and I learned a lot. And I was really, I look back at those 4 years because I was just starting out, and honestly, really didn't know what I was doing or any of those things. But I was lucky because the staff structure was such that I was the offensive line coach as a first-year college coach. A lot of guys have to GA for 2, 4, 6 years a lot of times.
Yeah, that's quick.
At different places. Yeah, and I was horrible at it as a result, obviously. But learned a lot, and at a great, that tremendous conference and level, and there's guys all over the place that started out in that league, whether you go, the head coach of South Dakota or the head coach at Temple. I mean, there's guys all over the place that started out in that conference.
Man.
Yeah. So and I think I really head coach of Minnesota Duluth. That's a good friend. And so I learned so much and that's how we learn most of the time, is just by, getting our teeth kicked in, through the back of our mouth a few times. And so, it was a really good experience. So I felt like when I went to Alma, I was, ready for something more. We got, had the co-coordinator title there for the first couple of years, and then the coordinator title. And really, ultimately, as an offensive line coach, you're responsible for the run game and the protections, and decide what you want your play actions to look like, and some of those different things. And so, we were in tough shape. And ultimately, I got that job because Greg Piscotty was the head coach. He was the linebacker coach at Grand Valley when I was a freshman, and all these things are intertwined, and Pete took a chance on me by hiring me when I really didn't have a ton of experience and didn't have a ton of full-time experience. But ultimately, my wife really wanted to get back in Michigan. I really wanted to get back in Michigan. My mom lives in Brighton. Her mom and her family lives in Grand Rapids. And so It was, and we had a 6-month-old daughter. So everybody was really supportive about, go follow your dreams and chase your dreams and get with Frodo and go back to, throw the ring in the fire and things like that. And as soon as that baby's born, they're like, hey, why don't you, skedaddle your rear end back to the state? We got to get our hands on that baby. So it was awesome. And it was, obviously when we got there in the last 3 years, P's first couple, and then the last year of the previous staff, they had been 4-26. So they had won 4 football games in the last 3 years.
I did not know that. Whoa.
And it was, and it was a situation where P had already been there for 2 years, and I think the guys were doing a really nice job installing his culture and recruiting and kind of building it to be what he wanted it to be. And obviously, he had an opening. And our last 3 years, we were 16-14, so we were still struggling, in that first year and 14, and got a little bit better in 15, and we went over to Hope and beat Hope at Hope for the first time since 1994 or something like that. It hadn't happened in a really long time. Went 5-5 and kind of steadied the ship and kind of gave a sign to the administration that things were going in the right direction. And then in 16, we went 7-3. So it had not been since 2004 that Alma had won 7 football games. So that was a big deal. And we were starting to kind of, I felt like when I went there originally and interviewed and did all my research on the school that you do, I thought, man, this is a place where we're going to be able to recruit some really good offensive linemen and kind of run the football and be physical and things like that.
Yeah.
And so, we were able to do that. And obviously that's, the year before I got there, I think we ran for 90 yards a game and 2 yards a carry. And those last 2 years, I think combined, we were about 215 a game and 4.5 a carry. And so we kind of
over double.
We had an idea. We had a goal. We had a vision for what we wanted this thing to become and to be. And, I think it was really neat to get there. And obviously I'm leaving a situation at Stevens Point where I have a future first-round draft pick playing left tackle for me. And then I went to Alma, and just long story short, we did not have any first-round draft picks playing our offensive line. And so you get to a situation like, man, did I do the right thing? And is this the right thing for my family and things like that? And I think the thing that was really big for us, and I think what Pete deserves a ton of credit for, is he's just a very patient, stoic person that never really overreacted when bad things were happening, which I learned a ton from him. But we had a tremendous staff. So the D coordinator when I got there, his name is Nate Jensen. He's a head coach at Manchester down in Indiana now. And,
okay.
The D coordinator that got there when he left, Andrew Strobel, is now the defensive coordinator at Morehead State at the FCS level down in Kentucky. And RJ Chittister was another guy that I worked with those first 2 years, and he's a tight ends guy at Lehigh now. So we really I'm like the worst one, right? I'm not the one guy. So,
big
but
tree.
we had such a good staff, and there's a lot of challenges anywhere you go, private school, and you look at, the $54,000 price tag or whatever number it is. And there's a lot of challenges, but I'm very headstrong and very convinced that regardless, how ridiculous the task is to do, that if you do it the right way, and there's always a way that you can sell anybody anything. And so those guys are, RJ and Strobel are the exact same way. And so I think we had such a tremendous, and then 17 was our last year. And, I think after like 4 or 5 games, we're averaging like 280, 290 yards a game rushing. And then the last half, started 4-2. And then the last half of that season, I've never been as banged up anywhere I've been any year, high school, as a player. So we had a rough year to finish it. And I think it was hard. So I think we really thought that was our best team, but and then got a chance to come to Saginaw Valley at the end of that 17 season. And we had some success, and Saginaw Valley is a great place now. So I didn't really think I had much chance. There was
going into that. You didn't think so?
I didn't, just because there was like the guys in the pool that they had interviewed. There was like former like Power 5 coordinators. There was former like FCS co-coordinators and offensive line coaches. So
then I can see why.
It was one of those things. And ultimately, I think, Coach Piscott knew Coach Collins really well. Jim Collins was the head coach there who hired me, and I'm deeply grateful to him. He's a good friend. He is offensive coordinator down at Dayton right now.
Okay.
And Jim moved on after 18 and took a job with Army.
Offensive analyst or something along those lines. I remember speaking with him a couple times.
Yeah, Jim was basically like the director of recruiting. Just miss Coach. He's a really good guy and a good friend, and I learned so many things from him in the year that we were there. Ultimately, when we came in, there was some uncertainty, and we didn't necessarily know. Obviously, we had a couple tough years, and we're able to go 8-3 that year, that 2018 year, and had a really nice year, and sent the seniors out the right way. And I think about some of the guys that have been through here that are 4th and 5th year guys, in 2018, 2019, and 2000. Man, there's some guys that have been through it, and it was really neat to send those guys out in the right way. And then came back in 19, and I always tell the story that people are like, well, you thought you had a pretty good team. We didn't win quite as many games as we wanted to, and it's been awesome ever since Brady's got here. I think the guys are on board, and I think there's just a lot of really good things that are happening. But when I got to Grand Valley 2003, okay, and Coach Kelly, that was his last year, and then he went to Central
I was going to
Michigan.
ask about that, because I know Kelly obviously had that national championship run with Grand Valley. So is that that year?
So they had won it the year before I got there.
Okay.
I was at the University of Idaho, and then I had transferred. Coach Quinn really was kind of the guy that recruited me, and really is the reason why I'm in coaching. I'm deeply grateful to him, and he's Coach Kelly's offensive line coach at Notre Dame now.
That's awesome.
And so those guys left after 2003, and the whole staff left and went up to Central with them, and Coach Martin took over. And again, all these guys are like deeply meaningful to me in terms of shaping like what I believe and what we have to be, and some of the core pillars and beliefs that I have as a coach that we try to bring into our program as a staff and things. And coach, like the coaches really would tell me later they thought our best teams in 2004. Coach Kelly left after 2003, won the national championship again, which is one of the most impressive things ever to happen. And the reason is because the entire team, like 16 seniors that started in 2002, graduated and left. And nobody thought that we were really maybe even going to win the conference, but, notwithstanding to go win the whole national championship. So we had to replace almost everybody. And in 2003, they managed to win it again, and not just win it again, but win it in a completely different way. Win it by, we gave up 3 points, the quarters, semis, and finals to win the championship. Coach Martin was the defensive coordinator at that time, and we were just, really, really good, had some really good players. again, that's just kind of a side note. But then going into 2004, Coach Martin took over and hired a whole new staff and things like that. It was a phenomenal staff now. And we went back and won the national championship then again in 5 and 6. But anytime you have that much turnover and you have, like the things that happened to us in 19, where I was able to stay obviously on staff. Coach Brady's a Grand Valley guy, and so I had a relationship with him, and I'm very deeply grateful to him and his family for keeping me because we love it here. But ultimately, anytime you have that much turnover, it's always hard. Everybody's getting their bearings, and it's just never – and that was hard for our guys because we thought we had a really good team. We just didn't win as many games as we wanted to. And I think I go back to that a lot. I talk to our guys and our players a lot about that, and obviously – we're very optimistic about where we're going and the way the recruiting's going and the types of people that want to come here. And we've really got this thing in great shape, and we're really excited.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I did want to touch back on your days, like you said. We talked about that D3 in Wisconsin with Stevens Point, or whether it be Whitewater is another one that brings out a lot of talent. And like you said,
Sure.
You got those guys that have such talent there. That's like you said, and due to a lot of the part, there's not scholarship schools there. You come over to Michigan, all of a sudden it's Big Ten, MAC, GLIAC. Then you got the MIAA, correct? And then there's all these conferences. Yeah, NAIAs.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Right.
We've had a couple guys from Lawrence Tech, Siena Heights on the podcast now, and now you're taking. And all those guys that don't go to those big-time schools, all of a sudden, they don't have to go away from home. They have all these different options. So it's been really interesting. But I want to know, like you said, when you're at Alma, that private school, and it's the price tag is very intimidating for a lot of these guys. What do you do recruiting them? Because a lot of guys, I don't think, take Division III football as seriously as they should coming out of high school. And I know a lot of my friends did. And now that they're in that position, they're very thankful that they made that choice. But what did you do to get guys on campus when you had things like that to work around?
Well, I think there's a lot of things because again, there's a lot of roadblocks, and I think ultimately you have to recruit more guys. I think that's the biggest. Yeah,
that's pretty. I feel like that's pretty general. Yeah.
So you have to recruit more. There's always, and we recruited definitely some guys that we had there that we I think could be really good players at the GLIAC level, and everybody develops differently. That's I keep going back to the Ramczyk story, and it's like. He really did not become a Division I prospect until his senior year in high school. And by then, you guys know, I mean, the recruiting's
tough to get
over.
recruited.
Division I schools are, they're all
junior
full,
year, you're done, because by that time, like, they're moving out of the next recruiting class. And, it stinks, but it's like, I don't know. It gives a lot of guys, especially like us, like between Drew and I, like guys that didn't really have, well, your junior year, actually, I shouldn't say that. My junior year for myself wasn't very standout. I come out and I had a much better senior year. And then, Division I schools are obviously gone, and that's not really something that, I probably would have fit in at. But then that gives a lot of these guys, especially the coaches at the Division II and Division III levels, that kind of thins the playing field for them. I almost feel like it could be kind of an advantage for them, because then they don't have to worry about all those guys that are already committed off to some bigger schools.
Sure.
Right, and you're always recruiting later, and all those things are 100% accurate. And I think it's amazing just going across the different levels. And man, there's good players that we had at Alma that would have been good players at Saginaw Valley. There's good players that we had that like when I was a senior in 2006, we had I think there was 9 players on that team that started that got into an NFL training camp or got drafted, and Dan Scuda and Brandon Carr and on and on and on.
That's awesome.
And I think ultimately there's more, everything's so globalized now, right? So you didn't have guys in Michigan going to, the Eastern Kentuckys and the Murrays and just, different places that are 3, 4, 5 states over,
The best players play in Michigan. That was the term.
Because the best players in Michigan go to Michigan. That was the thing. And now Michigan's got to fight for these kids now, because now you got West Coast schools and East Coast schools that are going to come in,
and even
they're going to offer
Division
kids.
II level, the
Division II level
Ashland
too.
And Ohio schools are taking.
That's a great point. The GMAC has become a lot more prevalent, obviously with Ashland moving over there too. It's just another bigger chip for them with teams like Findlay and Tiffin, who have had some really good years over there in the GMAC. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works out. But the last thing I had for you here is I just want to know what recruiting has been like during COVID. Like you said, it's adapt and change, and everything changes every once in a while, but it's you got to keep, now at Saginaw Valley, you do have scholarships you can offer kids. So that's an advantage when you compare it to recruiting at, say, an Alma or an Albion or Hope or whatever. But now you got to keep a lot of these seniors on scholarship another year because they have been granted this extra year of eligibility. So what has been kind of the workaround for you guys, and how have you approached recruiting the 2021 class?
Yeah, and I think it's been, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of advantages, in my opinion. We've done a ton of, we're allowed to do Zoom recruiting. For a while there, we were allowed to work guys out on campus, and then that got taken away when the next order came down in December. So honestly, it was one of those things that every time we got a window to bring guys on campus or go watch practices or do any of these things that we were allowed to do, we did everything we conceivably could as quickly as we could, because we knew that it could get snatched away at any point in time. And so, and I know you're a Northern guy, and I learned so much from Coach Pedrosi in terms of, it's so hard. And I can't even imagine how the Division I schools are doing it right now, because how are you going to offer somebody a scholarship if you can't meet him and stand in front of them and size them up and some of those things? And it's not everything. The game tape's important. The phone calls are important.
Yeah, but having that connection is like so important. I know. And
on-campus visiting.
On-campus visits are huge.
There's some schools out there that sometimes they may be the all great school, but when you get on campus, you're like, this isn't for me.
It's just not the feel or whatever, and that can be a huge.
Some schools where you're like, I'm overlooking the school, and then you go there and you're like, wow, I really like it here.
Yeah, that's a big deciding factor. I know our head coach, Coach Nystrom, was kind of said, like when I talked to him at least, he's not going to do a lot of guesswork on guys. Like until he can actually sit down and talk to guys or really get a sense to know them. And especially right now where you have to kind of be like stingent as far as what kind of money you're putting out there, because you can't fulfill that many, offers, quote unquote, even though you don't know what those offers entail, a lot of these guys. So he was just telling me, I'm not going to do a lot of guesswork. If I can get and sit in front of a guy, whether, we have to drag the recruiting process out longer than it usually has to be, whatever it is, that I can actually talk and meet these guys and get a sense to know them and their families and things, which, I believe is the right way to go about it. But at some point, that timeline starts to close down. I think that's been very difficult for a lot of schools.
Sure. Well, and Coach Nyson's been a lot of places, and he's been doing it for a long time at a really high level. And so I think most of the guys that are, that are a little bit older, that have been doing this a long time, have said that same thing. And it's like, man, unless I can look you in the face and decide that, when it's 4th and 1, you're going to do the right thing in the right way. Mm-hmm. It's just so hard. That recruiting part has been so difficult. So I think normally we would have 4 camps on our campus, and we would do another, 10 camps. I would go to Central Michigan, or I would go to Eastern Michigan or Western, or those places. And we would get a chance to evaluate guys, and you can't talk to them, and there's all these different rules, but ultimately I felt like, oh my goodness, how are we going to be able to, just rectify and solve that? We're not going to get to evaluate, 1,000 different. I'm not going to get to evaluate 1,000 offensive linemen and tight ends during the course of this, process. And so obviously we've just essentially just done everything that we could, and Zoomed as many guys as we could, and given as many virtual tours to as many guys as we could, and just kind of tried to. I think the one thing about this, and there's different guys that this has come up with. Obviously, you talked about, the junior year, if you're not a Division I recruit, Ryan Ramczyk was 6'5" and probably 225 pounds playing center.
He's got the frame to do that. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a really hard thing, because there's so many guys that blow up during camp season, and a lot of those guys, and obviously we can't talk about recruits until we sign them, but ultimately I'm convinced that, there's guys that we've got that, if they never got in front of any of these MAC coaches or any of these Power 5 coaches or things like that, because I think it's just been so much guesswork, because Division I schools can't even really give visits. I mean, there's coaches signing players they've never actually met.
That is a scary thought. That's seriously a scary thought, because that relationship with your college coaches, whether it be the head coach or position coach, whatever kind of coach it is, recruiting coach, like that's supposed to be super special, and that's got to be something that's really solid as you go through that process. But Coach, can't thank you enough for coming on here today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's been a good one, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks so much, guys, man. Really appreciate it. Good luck. Love the podcast.
It means a lot. All right, you have a good one. It was great having on Coach Burton from Saginaw Valley State. First rep for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's always cool to see different perspectives from each coach around the GLIAC,
2 GLIAC guests today, which is good. I think we've kind of gotten away from GLIAC a little bit, so it's good to kind of come back to that.
We've had Coach Jurison on. We've had Coach Twan on.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're hoping to have more coaches.
Get a coach from every team in the league.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Before Ashland. Well, Ashland's hard.
Yeah.
I have not talked to anybody from Ashland, and they're still in the GLIAC for one more year before they leave for the GMAC. But Ashland is hard. Like, nobody communicates from Ashland. I tried reaching out when we were going through the recruiting process. They don't even have like emails or phone numbers available to contact. They have, I think, 3 Michigan kids on their roster, all Ohio.
Yeah,
which is weird.
My own friend who's like 20 minutes away from Ashland University, he said it was hard for him to contact them, and he grew up in like downtown Cleveland.
And they've been like really successful too in the GLIAC. Like they've won GLIAC championships in the last couple years ago. That'll be a hard one. Hopefully we can get somebody from Ashland on because I've been wanting to.
Or even the GMAC. You can get some like Finley.
Well, we had Isaac on. We had Isaac on from Finley. And so hopefully
coaches.
we'll talk to like, coaches. Yeah, Trine. Who else is in there?
Lake Erie, I'm pretty sure.
Lake Erie College.
Wasn't Ashland the one that had the Hail Mary?
Yes, they did.
That was Ashland. So then Grand Valley lost that game, and they also lost to Wayne State
in Ferris.
So then they finished third or fourth in the GLIAC. Yeah, which is for them is a down year. So, but him playing at Grand Valley too, Coach Burton was cool. National championship winner there when he played. So, really sweet conversation. But let's talk a little bit of NFL. The Super Wildcard Weekend is here. Saturday's games. We have, the Colts at the Bills, the Rams at the Seahawks, and Bucks at Washington. So, interesting. We have a little rematch there between the Rams and the Seahawks. I mean, you think the Rams were the best team to come out of the NFC West, right? Is that what you were saying? Or
No,
was that Hunter?
I think that was Hunter.
It might have been Hunter.
Because I honestly look at the Seattle defense. I don't know if you guys have seen like the splits of the last like 6 games. They're starting to heat up really well.
Yeah,
they
much better.
obviously shut down Jared Goff when he was on the Rams, when he was starting for the Rams a couple weeks ago.
Before the thumb
injury, which obviously we don't know his availability in this game.
Yeah.
So
it was feeling, not to interrupt you, said it was feeling good with quotes. So
Kyler Murray was also feeling good versus the Rams,
and then
he was out after one series.
He couldn't even do anything.
You have no idea what's going to happen to him. And so I think Seattle's heating up at the right time.
Agreed.
Defensively, their offense scares me because I don't know if you guys have noticed, Russell Wilson's kind of gotten cold. Like, let Russ cook was like the big thing in the beginning.
MVP Russ, and then that train was derailed.
They split the 2 games, or did Seattle
Yes,
win
they
them both?
split. They split the both.
They did split.
The home team won both times.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
I thought the backup for the Rams played well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good enough for them to win.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Wolford.
Wolford?
Call him the Wolf of Ball Street.
His first pass at the NFL level was an interception, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like 90% sure. It was against
Sam
the
Darnold
Cardinals. That's true. Sam Darnold against the Lions. Was that?
6-6.
That was who was that got that?
Monday Night Football.
I think it was Diggs.
It might have been.
I think it was Diggs.
Was it Diggs?
Who's now on Seattle.
I'm going to say that we got rid of him, and now he's got a better career going for him. So I guess good for him. How about the Colts at the Bills? That's the AFC South versus AFC East, because the Colts didn't win that division. But I think that'll be an interesting game. I take the Bills, obviously. But, I mean, we'll wait for the game picks later. But that one I think should be pretty interesting.
What do you think about that one? Because I kind of feel like everyone's writing the Colts off. Like,
after the loss against the Steelers.
Not only that, but the fact that, the Bills are so hot, they're going to go. I feel like they're kind of looking at Kansas City and they're looking over the Colts.
I would agree. I saw a video from their practice, and they were super loose. All the boys are dancing, having a good time, which
is good.
There are a lot of teams that can be like that and operate that way, and that's fine. I have not been a part of a team that can be like that. Like, we have to, lock it in and whatever. But these are professionals. You like to think that they know what they're doing up to this game. I hope, for their sake, they're not looking over past to Kansas City and kind of writing this game off.
Like Baltimore did that last year. Remember?
They did.
And Tennessee came in there and killed them.
Yeah.
Didn't kill them, but they beat them.
Beat them after beating the Patriots. Yeah. That was a year for Tennessee. So let's talk a little bit about Sunday's games then, right there. Ravens at Titans, which is a big game with a lot of implications, especially for Lamar Jackson, who is
more of his legacy
in the playoffs so far.
I mean, he's a young quarterback, but at the same time, I feel like if Lamar can't turn the table or turn, this whatever about
turn
the corner, then he's honestly, the Ravens would never move on. But
I'm saying he's not gone. It's just
you're gonna be like, all right, we need to add some pieces around him because he obviously can't do it with what we have
by himself. Yeah,
they need a better receiver.
I think so.
In my opinion,
they got Marquise, and then who else?
Des Bryant.
Des Bryant came back, threw up the X couple games in a row. Yeah. Who else do they have? Like, not a lot of, not a ton of great talent. That tight end is it Andrews?
Yeah, he's good.
Andrews is good for them.
They've won with their defense. I mean, that team is always, even when they win the Super Bowl.
Well, the one exception to that was that Cleveland game. They put up 40-some points, right? Yeah. So that's what they need to do, and that was the shit game when Lamar came out after cramps, where he did the little poop walk out of the locker room.
And obviously, McSorley's not going to be there anymore to help him out.
You can't bail him out anymore.
But no, the Ravens, I feel like the Ravens are the team where you don't want to play the Ravens right now. I feel like they're really hot, but at the same time, there's this stigma against Lamar to where it's like you can't win the big games, when it matters. So I'm kind of torn on who I'm going to pick in this one. I'll think about it as we go on in the podcast.
So make a decision later.
The Ravens are also going to have to stop Derrick Henry, and he ran all over them.
Back-to-back Triple Crown winner. You see that? Back-to-back Triple Crown winner. He has the most carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns for the back-to-back years.
And this might just be more of an old school take, but I think in the playoffs, you look at the teams that can run the ball. It's a passing league. Yep. You still got to be able to run the ball.
Stays true, which is weird.
And then you got to play good defense.
I agree with that.
As the weather gets worse, it gets more difficult to throw the ball. You get wind, you get snow, you get God knows what. But the teams that can run the ball and play defense, they're gonna have a chance to win.
And that brings me also to the point where we were talking about Buffalo. They've been reliant on their pass game this year.
Yeah.
Like, I have no confidence. I have no confidence in
plays.
Devin Singletary or Zach Moss. Like, I just don't think they're good quality backs.
I just don't know how good the Colts defense is. I remember watching that Packers-Colts game.
Yeah.
But I will say
they had a heck of a time.
Yeah, that Packers, and then against I know that was it might have been a little bit ago,
about
but
the weather too.
You know who I think was out in that game was DeForest Buckner. I think was out of that Packers game, was it the Steelers?
I think he was out against the Titans when Derrick Henry had that monster
it was the Titans.
Game.
It was the Titans.
And then the next week they shut down whoever they played for 50 yards.
If Buckner's in the game, I'm not going to say the defense is going to be clamps or whatever, like they're going to stop him stone cold at the line, especially when you're playing Josh Allen and the Bills. But that'll be a big improvement for them. Not only because he's a defensive lineman, run stopper, but that's a leader on the defense.
Without giving away my pick, I don't think the Colts can score with him.
I know.
And Phillip Rivers, if you get after him,
I really feel like if you pressure him, he's going to have to make those deep ball throws, and he just doesn't make them. Back to the Ravens game where you were saying, run the ball or whatever. I feel like Ryan Tannehill's the perfect quarterback lately, to where it's like Derrick Henry's going to run the ball, and then you're going to forget about A.J. Brown, you're going to forget about Corey Davis, and Tannehill's going to hit you over the middle.
Or just the play action, like the Lions, that was deadly for him. He would just fake it, and like when he rolls out on the goal line, and there is not a defender within 15 yards of Tannehill.
Play action pass is going to...
Even just the roll, like the naked boots. Like those were just, like for the Lions, that's like middle school, as you would say. Like that was bad defense there for a bit.
Sometimes in the NFL too, I think people get lost in that they're looking for a quarterback that's going to win games, and sometimes it's about finding one that doesn't lose games. Because there are some really good teams out there where the quarterback play, it's not the greatest, but they don't Tannehill. He doesn't make the pick. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions in the red zone.
And that was Baker's problem last year.
Yeah,
he totally changed.
And if you're on the Titans, that's important because if you don't have the amount of possessions that you need with your type of offense and your style of like bully ball, you're not a team that can come back from a 3-score deficit or even a 2-score at some point deficit.
Another one of those buzzwords is game manager, and there's a lot of guys in the NFL that have made a pretty good career of not being in the spotlight, but they also win a lot.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to the next game, too, Bears-Saints. Trubisky's been a game manager lately. He's cleaned up his act, he was turning the ball over in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, do you remember that interception that he threw into the back of the end zone? Yeah. Was that 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
But
my goodness. If you look at his,
against the Jaguars.
Yes, against the Jaguars.
It was bad, but if you look at his splits, like in the last couple of games, I've been watching Orlovsky break down his film and everything like that on Twitter. Dan. And Trubisky looks like he's more confident now. Like obviously he's not the greatest quarterback like you were saying, but he could be a game manager if he stops making mistakes.
And if he played the Lions for his career, I would say, he's
a top 5 quarterback ever.
There are better defenses.
We'll make our pick later, but
that one might get scary.
Bears and Saints. That would be an interesting one.
Let's
talk.
We did forget
Bears have a defense though, right?
Yeah, we did.
They could.
Yeah,
we did forget about Tampa and the Washington.
Yeah, I was about to bring us right back to that. So Washington obviously wins the NFC East outright. Alex Smith kind of still up in the air as whether or not he'll be actually making the start in the playoffs, which I hope he at least makes an appearance, whether or not he's out there the whole time. I think just having him on the field would just kind of encapsulate this entire journey for Alex Smith, and it would be so cool to see him.
I feel like the team's more confident around him.
100%, as they should be. And I saw a great stat. Tom Brady has the largest margin of difference between his QBR when he is pressured versus when he is not.
Yeah.
So when you get the pressure on him, all of a sudden that offense changes drastically because he's not a guy who can come outside the pocket and make a lot of plays.
They're exactly. Get after him.
The Washington front four, they're all healthy. All those former first-round picks with Young and Sweat and the interior guys,
Payne.
I forget. Yep. So
forget the last one, Kerrigan.
If they can bring pressure to Tom Brady, that's going to be basically their calling card for the game.
I really think that the difference maker in this game, a lot of people would be like, oh, if they can run the ball, it's going to be good. I feel like if you can get Antonio Brown coming across the middle, he's still a good enough playmaker to where Tom Brady can get the ball out quick to him and he can make a play.
Brady's deep ball has been better in the last couple of weeks. You've seen him,
and you've seen the chemistry.
Remember
with
we
him
talked,
and Antonio Brown
and we talked with you about how he was potentially turning Godwin into this type of Edelman or Amendola, that underneath route type guy. And I think we've finally starting to get away from that a little bit in the last couple of weeks, where he's made, because that's what Godwin's game has been up until this point, has been deep ball down the sideline, fade, back shoulder, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's never been a quick slant hitch guy.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you could say, well, the competition for the Bucs hasn't been the greatest. They played the Falcons 2 out of the last 3 weeks or something, and they played the Lions. So it's like, wow, right? But at the same time, it's good to always, I feel like you as a coach would know, it's good to always have those games where it's like, you can beat these teams, but this isn't for us to see how good we are against these teams. This is for us to gel more, for us to get together. And I feel like that's
not a bad
point.
And obviously they're going to have, beating, like you said, whatever type of teams, that's still momentum, and they're still on a roll.
They're feeling. I feel like they're feeling really good about themselves.
Rightfully so. The Bucs.
The Bucs.
Yeah. I would make a prediction: if a Washington running back runs for 100 yards, they'll win the game.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to control the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
Now is what's his name back? Gibson is playing. So that would be your guy then to watch, right? Because he was out. Was it an ankle injury? I forget what it was.
Something.
But
that
was huge for them.
I agree with you, because I feel like they're going to need to run the ball.
They're going to have to hold the ball some.
Because you don't know how many plays Alex Smith can really make.
Yep.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
That other kid wasn't bad. Is it Heineke?
Yeah, he's not bad.
They might need him. So
Logan Thomas is going to be a difference maker.
Logan Thomas is going to be a difference maker. That tight end quarterback turned tight end from Virginia Tech, right?
That's scary.
And because it won't circle back to it, but your former friend at Lake Orion, is it Ian
Gilmore?
Yes,
we're going to have him on soon. Yeah,
that tweeted out, and it was a great tweet about after that.
Oh, the
Sunday
Giants
night football game where did the Eagles tank it? Did they lose on purpose? And Giants fans were complaining.
Yeah, the players were pissed. Yeah,
and I think Ian tweeted out, "You went 6-10."
Yeah. So it's like somebody took a picture of all of the tweets and was like, "Somebody remind these guys that they won 6 games."
The Giants beat Seattle Seahawks on the road and then proceeded to get smoked by the Cardinals, and the Browns went in there and beat the brakes off them on Sunday Night Football.
I thought that was the tweet of the week. That was you can't really 6-10. You're fortunate somebody had to get in.
Yeah. Now the last game we have here, Browns at Steelers. So let's talk about Juju's little remarks there. The same old Browns. The nameless, gray faceless, whatever, like such a Mike Tomlin-esque remark, but Mike wouldn't come out and say that, especially coming out into this week.
But he just addressed the dancing
thing, and now the headline just circles right back. Is he doing it on purpose?
I'm a little bit surprised that even came from them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And especially him after he was just talking.
The last thing you would want to do is add, not that,
the fire?
Not that the Browns
lost to him.
I was going to say, without your quarterback, without all these players, the last thing you want to do is add fuel onto whatever fire they have there. So I just thought that was incredibly stupid.
I don't, is the pressure really on the Browns?
No. None at all.
The monkey fell off their back last week. Right?
I agree.
If they would have lost, oh my God.
So there was tremendous pressure on them to win that game.
That's true.
At home,
and it was
that wasn't playing. They would have never heard the end of it.
Nope.
Especially Mayfield.
Yeah.
So now I look for them to play better. I don't think there's any pressure on Cleveland.
I think
it's a good point.
This year automatically is a success for them.
Right.
You went 6-10. You didn't make the playoffs in 17, 18 years.
You would not want to play them now.
No,
because they got it. They did. Everybody's like, we made the playoffs. Okay, everybody in Cleveland gets free beer. I mean, they don't.
And you talked about, can you run the ball? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
And can the Steelers run the ball? No, they can't.
No, they cannot.
And so
Wait a minute.
Their quarterback is old.
Yeah, and so when I
want to talk about getting heat on somebody,
that's the guy who you need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what really sucks is Olivier Vernon just tore his Achilles against those Steelers last week. So that's going to suck. But
and they lost a safety.
The safety to
But
COVID
they get one
and
back.
yep. And now so they
Stefanski's not being able to
Stefanski's not
coach.
gonna
That's going
play.
to be a big.
That's my major.
But when
concern.
Baker was asked about it, did you see what he said?
He said, well, he's very confident because his quarterback coach and the OC.
Borderline a little bit over than confident. He was like, so what kind of the reporter is very basic journal question where what type of effect will this have when your coach not being able to coach and you losing a safety? No effect. That was it. No effect.
What's he gonna say?
Yeah, but at
He
the
did,
same
but-
time, you could have played that off so much better and been like, we're really gonna miss those guys. Really wish we could be there, but our game stays the same. Like you could have.
Well, he did.
Now
say
you're just
this
stirring the pot.
when they
more.
asked him about the whole.
That's the company line.
Like they asked him about what, like, well, how does it feel to be in the playoffs? He goes, "We're just happy to be in the dance." like what else do you?
Yeah, again, I don't think there's any pressure on Cleveland
no.
whatsoever. Pittsburgh
I
was
would
the
agree.
one that was 11-0
Yeah.
and going to
Are we
win
better
all
than the
16
Dolphins?
They
games
lose
Yeah,
three.
like, come on.
and just crawled
And they
down
played-
the
they
finish line
played-
to the finish line.
They've played in their last 4 games of 1-4, and they played one good half. The Colts should have won that game. You're up
That's
21-7.
true. That's
you
true.
could go back when they were 9-0. I don't know that the 10 and 11
Yeah.
wins were too
I think they beat
convincing
Dallas
either.
by 6.
That
They
was a
were losing
primetime
that
game too.
game.
I think. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Because Dallas is always primetime, but
I don't know the whole second half of the season. Either they got bored or.
And then the
but
Ravens
did
game.
Did anyone think they were going to be that good at the start of the year? I
No.
didn't.
they
The
were picked-
Ravens game when
They were picked like middle of the division.
McSorley and
That
RG3.
one, the Wednesday game.
And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, well, we had to play it a Wednesday. Well, you had all your guys. They're missing Lamar and their running backs. Like, let's go. Like, come on.
That's a great point. Yeah, but that's all we've got for the wild card weekend. Let's transition over to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. So the Atlanta Falcons trying to make their head coach and general manager job more appealing. They're the only team ranked under the Lions as far as the appeal.
Yeah,
for potential.
NFL.com did that.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. But
Which
the
Hunter
Atlanta
even
owner
said.
I thought there were 2.
I saw only Atlanta underneath
Yeah,
there.
and
but-
Hunter Chambers actually sat on here and said that the Falcons are the most appealing to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that'd
my-
be the exact opposite.
$30 million over the cap. Nice pick, Hunter.
So the Atlanta owner, Arthur Blank, came out and said that no players were off the table or exempt from getting traded out of the franchise, that obviously including Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Now, Ryan is due $40.9 million next year, and Julio adds another $23 million. The Falcons are obviously, like you said, not in a great position when it comes to cap space, which makes the job less appealing than the Lions. So at least we kind of have that going for us.
So that shows, when there's teams like OKC kind of went through this when they were, in the basketball, where they pour so much money into these players who are in the win now mentality.
Yeah.
And you didn't get to where you thought.
You could
No,
say
'cause
they
got
got
there.
to where they thought.
Well, like,
they didn't
yeah.
win where they needed to.
Yeah, and so like
Because they had that run.
Yeah.
It feels like so long ago that they were in
no,
that
it really
Super Bowl.
does. Because remember, they came out, they looked like the best team in football before they got to that Super Bowl, and then they looked like the best team in football when they were in the Super Bowl.
So obviously they made it there.
And then
so,
after that, they had
AFC.
like 1, maybe 2 playoff runs, but Dan Quinn kind of.
I'm sorry. That was the biggest choke job in the history of
for
the
sure.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That might be the biggest
Good
choke job in
God.
sports.
That was awful.
I mean, it was terrible, but you have to remember that they did get there. So it's like,
And you know what's sad about that, too? Like, I like Matt Ryan.
no, I don't mind him at all either.
you know who
think-
else likes Matt Ryan? Matt Stafford. He said him and Ryan
Yeah.
are actually like really
They are.
close as far as
They-
like outside of
But
football.
the whole narrative of Matt Ryan's career changed in the matter of 15 minutes of a football game.
For sure.
100%.
He's in
regarded.
he's in a different echelon. He's talked about in a different way.
It's
And
like, oh, Matt Ryan.
to me, it was play calling, and they just not using the play clock like they should. I mean, that was hard. It's hard to
Stop
blow.
running the
Was
ball.
it 21? Were they up 21?
28-3. They were down 25.
I mean, come on,
It's unreal.
Super Bowl.
Yeah. So that's obviously going to be a
Especially
stain
when
on whoever's
Patricia's
there.
on the other side. Should be able
No, I
to
didn't.
score.
I take that back. By no surprise, they lost to a defensive guru. But anyways,
Yes. Well, I will say Julio has been banged up a bit in 2020, which has allowed their other receiver, who has not been getting as much press as I think he deserves, Calvin Ridley, to shine for the Falcons. Leads the team with over 1,300 yards, and he's tied with Devontae Adams for 5th on the receiving
I
list.
really think that.
I'm really surprised. I know Calvin Ridley was having a great year. I did not know he was
No,
to
Calvin
that
Ridley was
extent.
having a great year when Julio was out in the beginning of the year. Julio
Yeah.
came back and started to ball out a little bit, and then
He
he got
did.
the same hamstring issues dealing with. Obviously, this is coming from a Julio Jones fantasy owner, so I know
There you go.
what was going on with
course.
him. But no, I think Calvin Ridley could be like one of
keyword
those.
fantasy.
Yeah, Hey, the Lions should pick me up. I've had a winning season every year. But I'm just saying. Anyway, but Calvin Ridley, I feel like he could be like Stephon Diggs. Remember when Stephon Diggs was coming down to the scene and a team that was like missing a receiver like Buffalo was, and they get him for like a younger quarterback, and then it works really well. So I feel like
coming over from Minnesota.
Yeah, and so Julio also, he's in the win now mentality. So I really think he's going to be dealt.
Think so?
Yeah,
that'll be interesting because that would be obviously a hit to that cap. But then when you're rebuilding, does that really matter? You don't really worry about the cap that much because it's about getting the right people and the right pieces in place for the future. Like the cap space is not really one of your big ideas, right? So I think as we move forward with the Lions, I would assume that would be the biggest thing to look for is how closely they're regarding like the cap space that they have and what type of players or pieces they're putting in there before they really come out and like, you're not ever going to come out and say that you're rebuilding, but that'll be what you look at, I would assume.
This one's more directed at you. Do you think that Colin Cowherd brought it up and he said that there are teams like the Carson Wentz signing, the Matt Stafford signing, the Matt Ryan signing, where teams are like, those contracts don't look good anymore, What do you think Atlanta does with Matt Ryan?
Stafford probably actually the least of the three on those.
And do you think it's very similar to what the Lions should do with Matt Stafford, or do you think they're in two different ballparks?
Well, it depends, too, on the contract, because a lot of times it's the way the contract is structured where they, put the money up front and then the contract gets tapered down.
How much is guaranteed and all of these clauses?
Those are really hard to compare, but they're two. I mean, two career paths are pretty similar, other than obviously Stafford hasn't won a playoff game and Ryan has, but neither of which. I mean, who is their best? Who was the lead running back for them in that Super Bowl run?
That was Devontae Freeman.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does feel like forever ago that Freeman was there.
He even had Tevin Coleman was really good.
Yep.
And then you think about Matt Ryan's whole career. Michael Turner was good with the Falcons.
So, yeah, and again, not to get into the whole Stafford thing, but they came out with something the other day, and he's had a running back rush for 100 yards 11 times in his career.
Like 160
Reggie Bush had to be like half of those.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush had to be like half of those, too.
Yeah. And it's like there are
one of them is Swift.
There are some teams in the NFL that have 11 out of the 16 games where they have a 100-yard rusher, if not every game.
Derrick Henry.
So
seriously, if you're the Titans.
That's a crazy stat.
Yeah,
it is.
The run game certainly helps the quarterback.
Let's talk a little bit about the NFL end-of-season awards. So they have not really officially been released yet.
One's really official, though, pretty much.
Well, okay, fair. But these rankings are from Bill Barnwell, who is a senior ESPN writer. Let's start off with the Comeback Player of the Year, which should be official. But number one, these are all, like I said, Bill's rankings. Alex Smith at 1. Number 2 is Jason Verrett, who is a cornerback for the 49ers, who has – I was reading about him, and his story is actually really incredible about what he's overcame.
He was on the Bears, I'm pretty sure.
He hasn't played meaningful football in like multiple years. And for him to come back and be producing at the level that he has, awesome. Number 3 is Rob Gronkowski. So that would be
took a year off,
retirement, but I guess he says like he's more refreshed than anything. You know what I mean? Like that was probably a benefit for him, especially with his personality, just to get out of the game, get out of that space for a while. That's what he's come out and said, is that he now has like this different appreciation, not like a new appreciation.
He much like Romo. I mean, he could make more money off the field.
Oh yeah,
so probably true. Doing very different things. I will say though,
Drew
he's not going to be calling games.
To be taking a broadcast role
after this year.
Yeah,
I did hear that.
Pretty banged up guy. I mean, he's done it all too.
Well, he was supposed to retire last year, if you do remember correctly, but then the last couple seasons for the Saints have ended in a terribly dramatic fashion. And he said, "Screw it, I'm coming back."
Vikings game.
Yes.
How many Vikings games?
Yeah, Rudolph and all that
Rams.
stuff. Yeah, but the Rams too. That that no call, right? But those guys, Alex Smith, really should lock that up. That should be pretty easy. MVP, we have 1, Aaron Rodgers, 2, Patrick Mahomes, and 3, Josh Allen.
Totally agree.
When I said Josh Allen a couple weeks ago, Hunter looked at me like I was nuts, and he's. I think you two were like, you were kind of skeptical as well. Like, he has been putting up crazy good numbers, and like you said, without the running back potential in the backfield, which you could say almost in some cases works to his advantage, because then they lean on his ability and his arm so heavily, and he inflates those numbers.
Yeah, and as not only, you could even think about this as a Lions fan too. Me as a Browns fan, you look at Rodgers.
Oh, you're not a Lions fan anymore?
Well, no, I'm just saying in general. But you look at Rodgers' second year in that system, and he's taken off. Josh
Yeah,
Allen's
that's a
that
good point.
third year in his system taken off. Matt Stafford, Baker haven't had that third year, second year in that system. Where you look at these guys, they're putting up MVP numbers in those systems. And obviously
Not a bad point.
Mahomes.
You mean 7 offensive coordinators in 12 years is tough?
Or 4 head coaches in 3.
Yeah.
So
That's a great point. That has a lot to do with what. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I
producing.
think Brian Dable is would be a very good head coach. I think that he's the reason Josh Allen's up there.
Yeah, good point. Let's move on to the offensive player of the year. So a little bit different.
Rodgers
category
is
here.
going to win.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would.
71%. I mean, come on.
And the
40,
QBR is
pretty
You're
much.
talking to someone
unreal.
that's not a Packers guy.
It's unreal. Offensive player of the year, number 1 is Travis Kelce, 2 is Kamara, and 3 is Derrick Henry.
Ooh.
So he put Kamara in front of Henry,
wouldn't
which
do that.
I disagreed with. Like I said, first guy to win the Triple Crown 2 years in a row for the rushing. Travis Kelce, I would say, is definitely a contender for that number 1 spot. Broke the single season receiving yards record for any type of tight end in the NFL. So
There was a stat the other day, I think it was Orlovsky, tweeted out that if Derrick Henry did not have a carry in the second half,
He'd be 5th in the
he
rushing.
still would have been in the top
the
5.
first half.
First half?
His second half is where a lot of his carries came, I believe, or his
Breaks,
yards.
he somehow breaks the long ones in the second half.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier.
top
Is like,
5, though.
yeah. So like, if
I don't
he,
know
yeah.
how you don't
So
put
the
him.
stat.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week, that stat. I brought it up because if he did not, like you said, if you didn't have a carry in the first half of the game, then he'd still be in that top 5 list because with a guy like Derrick Henry, when you are wearing teams down in the first and second quarter, even going into halftime, you come back out and all of a sudden those guys don't want to tackle you anymore. And then those 3 and 4 and 6 yards turn into 10 and 15 and 80 plus.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what I think when it comes to Offensive Player of the Year? I feel like they don't look at it to where in the MVP you look, okay, you take Rodgers off that team, where's that team at?
yeah,
I'll
that's a
tell
different, it's a different,
Yeah.
what's the word? Different set of like,
Consensus almost. Like you're looking at it from a different perspective.
different perspective.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but I look at those 3 and I'm like, okay, you take Kelce off that team. Mahomes has still got Tyreek Hill, whatever. You take Kamara off that team. Mark Ingram was dominant when he was in New Orleans.
I would say out of those 3, Derrick Henry would
You
be
take
the
Derrick
only
Henry off that
valuable.
team,
Yeah.
you're like,
I shouldn't say the only valuable, but the most valuable out of those 3
Yeah.
would obviously be Henry.
so I personally, I think Derrick Henry deserves it. Only
agree.
8 players ever, 8 seasons
It
ever.
should be the player that you could least afford to lose.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be the MVP. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. But how about the Offensive Rookie of the Year to wrap this up? We have number 1, Justin Jefferson. He ranked him ahead of number 2, Justin Herbert, and then 3 is Tristan Wirfs, who's the rookie offensive tackle for the Bucks, who has had a great year.
It's hard to award a lineman, and the guy
is.
may be, but
He's had a. I was looking at some of his
wrong.
stats.
Yeah, you couldn't go wrong with either of the first 2.
No, and that's where the majority of
toss-up.
the voting will
Who
be
would you
for
give
those
it to?
2. Now, I will say we've got 2 records here. Herbert broke that rookie.
Herbert broke Baker's
the
record.
touchdown record,
Yep.
and then Jefferson broke. Was it Randy Moss?
It was Anquan Bolden's.
Well, he broke Moss's record for the Vikings rookie or something,
broke
and then he
Anquan
broke
Bolden's NFL
4
record.
receiving
Yeah.
touchdowns for a rookie.
I might be wrong.
Yards
right?
for a rookie.
I think it's not easy, but I
I'd
think
go
it's
with Jefferson.
easier to come in and play wide receiver
Oh,
than
yeah,
it is quarterback.
for sure.
So I'd give it to the quarterback.
Yeah, I only think it's going to go to Jefferson because the year Baker did break the record, they gave it to Saquon. So I think that
Oh,
they're
good
going to
point.
look at
I didn't realize that.
Justin
Which should have
Jefferson.
no bearing.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying from
Yeah, I hear
like
ya.
past experience. I just think that they'll be like, wow, he made more of a. I don't know. I just feel like Justin Jefferson's going to get it.
Rookie
Yeah, I would agree.
quarterbacks, though, typically don't come in and do that.
No, they do not. And he's had a great
He
year. in
shattered
his own
Baker's
right.
record. Baker's was 26 or 27. He was like 31, 32.
Let's talk about another quarterback that had a great year. Little bit, well, I guess probably pretty comparable success to the Chargers. A little bit worse, but the Chargers really didn't have a great year.
Chargers won 4 straight.
I know. And then it was like,
And their coach got fired.
How?
Yeah, they went 7-9.
I know. So obviously less success. But Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans, who potentially will be out of Houston here pretty soon, I will say, he's pissed off with the Texans franchise all around, and that comes from them getting rid of his best weapon in DeAndre Hopkins last year without telling him, without getting any type of warning. Apparently he finds out about all this stuff on social media, which is, it's just not great for a franchise quarterback. He's no longer a he's still a young quarterback, but not like a guy who he's been around the league enough. I think he deserves that type of respect. They ignored his input on the general manager search, and to top it off, they can't win games even when he's balling out. You saw J.J. Watt apologize for, quote, like wasting one of his years after that last game. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with him. He tweeted out about a week ago, some things never change, but has not since confirmed or denied that had anything to do with the GM, the hiring of Nick Caserio.
Could have been a girlfriend problem.
It could have been a lady problem. Could have been something about all the crap that's going on with the world right now in our political world. It could have been so many different things. So definitely not going to tie that.
But further
to
reports
him.
have come out. So.
Exactly. That's very true. I will say with the new GM already for Houston, Nick Caserio, and new head coach they'll be having soon, they're going to go throughout that process. It might be a win-win for both sides if Deshaun Watson demands a trade.
A change of scenery would probably be good for him. And even though the Darnold kid said he wants to stay in New York, there's a lot that comes with playing in New York.
There is. And
ask
for
a
Deshaun,
New York Yankee. I mean, ask a New York Giant.
Even Philly, too. The Philly's a tough
and Deshaun Watson's still worth, I got to say, multiple first-round
picks. I like
the
trade offer that was reported. I was saying before the show, I thought it was good for both teams.
What offer?
Which one?
There's no.
Not a trade
I
offer.
say there is no offer. Yeah. Okay.
They're proposed
from Drew.
Yeah, I came up with that.
Oh, that was
yours?
That
was
I came up with that.
Yeah, that was no real trade-off. That's what I was trying to tell you. Yeah.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. Lions might need to hire me. I know I can scout talent. Deshaun Watson was my quarterback this year too.
It was him.
It was him and maybe a third or a fourth,
and their second pick.
And then you trade them, and because they don't have a first round pick, because the Dolphins have that. So the Dolphins are like, all right, we'll give this back to you. We'll give our pick to you, and we'll give you Tua, young quarterback. You can build off him. We're in the win now stage. We'll take a.
So now it's do they believe in Tua, and then you look at. Deshaun, $22 million cap hit. But like I said, when you're rebuilding, that doesn't matter as much.
This was another. I saw another one today because it didn't involve Miami.
Okay. I really like. I think Miami should.
Well, you were talking about the one we talked about earlier, though, the Miami thing, right? Because
no,
that's okay. That's not a real trade.
Oh yeah.
What were you talking about?
This was on Twitter, and it was. Maybe just a proposed trade.
I'm saying that because there have not been any concrete trade offers.
Just between the two
we don't
teams.
even know if Watson is gone yet because that'd be something for a new GM and new head coach to get rid of your star quarterback.
You hate to see the new guy, the new GM. You hate to come into a new job and you already got disgruntled people, let alone your best player.
Yeah.
It's not a good.
Which really is not Caserio's fault whatsoever.
No.
And let's be real, it's best player in the large gap until the second best player for that team.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's like, especially when the quarterback is not even the face, really, of your franchise, which is kind of interesting.
He's kind of grown into it.
He has, but that's going to be JJ Watt until JJ Watt leaves. Or is
let's
done.
not talk about
leaving.
He's disgruntled.
I hope he leaves.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
As long as he doesn't go to Pittsburgh. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine? Would that be the three Wobblers playing on the
He could come to Ford Field. He can pick his number.
I would take either of them.
Robert Saleh, I bet, would love some JJ
I would
Watt.
take either of them, to be honest with you.
We're taking all defensive players. It's an open, open season.
Yeah? Official report?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, that's all we've got for the NFL talk today. Let's go talk to quarterback at Northern Michigan, Ryan Johnson, before we get into a little bit of college football talk. Our second guest on today's episode played in 8 games as a true freshman for the Northern Michigan Wildcats in 2017. Unfortunately, lost his next year to an injury, but bounced back and was a starting quarterback for NMU in 2019. He's an absolute baller, out of Greenway, Wisconsin. It's Ryan Johnson. What's going on, RJ? How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Kobe?
Fantastic. Excited to have you on. I think
good.
Only we talked about it before, the third guy from Northern.
Yeah.
We had Morrison on, and then we had Coach Jurison on, but I've been trying to spread out the guests a little bit.
Okay. Ryan, before we get started, I would assume you're a huge Calvin Johnson fan because, coming out of Wisconsin, with the last name, you're probably a huge Lions fan, right?
Yeah. Well, I haven't been asked that question a lot. I be a little similarity there, but no, not a Calvin Johnson fan.
He is on the ballot for the Hall of Fame this year, right? Yeah. So that'll be.
Is he already? Good for him.
We're gonna have to assume that you're a cheesehead then.
Yeah, big time cheesehead over here.
Big time cheesehead.
So big Aaron Rodgers fan, MVP this year, huh?
Well,
he should be.
Before we get too deep into this, being that I didn't get too many questions in our last segment.
Thanks.
When I was a kid, probably under the age of 10, even Kobe doesn't know this, but I had a Green Bay Packer trash can in my bedroom.
Oh, you did?
And
I actually got one too here.
Yeah. And I want to say, you're, again, much younger, but Lynn Dickey was the quarterback.
There's no way in hell
Lynn
that
Dickey.
Yeah.
I do know Lynn Dickey. My
Oh,
dad.
my gosh.
Yeah, that's
There
right.
you
He's,
go.
he's
Yeah.
making it up to make you feel better.
We've already bonded. I can't wait to meet. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah, I'm the same. Do you remember Ray Nitsky?
Yes.
My dad also is a huge fan of him.
Yep.
Unreal.
Yeah, it's a very rich tradition here. We all
yeah.
kind of get into it a little too much.
Yeah,
But,
we made the trek out to Lambeau a few years ago. That was on
We
our
did.
bucket
That was
list.
fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they got a lot of new stuff going up right now. They got an ice skating rink, a sledding hill, a whole football field for the public. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
When
a,
we went,
it was a
that
great
was
day.
Aaron Rodgers was in for the first series, maybe
Yeah.
like the first possession, and then he came out. Lions got a win. Pat McAfee was on the call.
even Matt Prater threw a touchdown.
Matt Prater threw a touchdown, like our kicker. Like it was so awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying not to remember that one already.
Yeah,
But
well,
Don't worry, that
I would
was the
say-
highlight of the last 10 years for us.
exactly. I mean, we are not the first seed
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
NFC this year, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's whatever.
yeah.
but,
We'll let you guys have that one. Yeah.
what's the time at home been like for you? I'm assuming you're at home right now.
I'm at home. I'm going to be up in Marquette Monday morning for
good.
the COVID testing or the campus passport deal.
Sweet.
And I've just been working and working out. Really, it's been a really low key schedule here, but nothing wrong with that. A lot
That's
of
good to
family
hear.
time.
What are you doing?
So,
Where are you
I'm-
working at?
I'm actually doing a trade. I'm plastering and drywalling for one of my buddy's companies, or my buddy's dad's companies.
There you go.
So
Nice.
it's some physical work, and it's hard to
yeah.
get to the weight room at night, but we get it done. So
That's good.
You're not on
So,
you're not on
yeah.
stilts, are you?
I'm not on the stilts. I actually, when we're in the 8 feet basement, I can actually get the ceiling just standing there.
Ooh.
But most of the guys are on the stilts. So,
Yeah. There you go. That would be
Yeah.
fun to explain to Coach, falling off the stilts.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons too. His dad's like, I don't want to be the guy to, have to make that call. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I totally respect it.
No, that
So,
makes sense. What's typical workout look like for you? I mean, outside of we're on the app with the program with Coach Branshaw, but what do you do outside of that? Kind of getting ready to go back up to Northern.
Yeah. Well, I follow most of Coach Branch's platform, but I do a lot of shooting hoops and basketball for the conditioning.
There you
I'll run
go.
a mile or two on the treadmill. Basketball condition is always really good condition, so I'm always trying to get to that point. And then a lot of body weight stuff, a lot of push-ups, dips, pull-ups, stuff like that. So I'm big into the body weight more than the free weight. I had a little nick in my arm. I'd say a little sore, so I just started doing body weight stuff, and it feels great now. So
Yeah, that's good.
staying
That's
away
a good
from the free weights a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good indicator I found too. Like especially when you're kind of like you said, like you're dinked up or whatever. Like sometimes when you go jump right into weights, you don't know kind of what you're at. Like if you can go full go. Like sometimes when you're doing body weight stuff, you kind of feel it out. Be like, maybe I should or shouldn't.
Progress easy.
Yeah, like maybe I should or should not be doing some of this stuff right now. So that's always good.
Yeah, it's a little less wearing. It's better for flexibility, the body weight stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a little less wearing on the joints and stuff. So, yeah, I'm a little bit bigger into that when I'm throwing a ball. I'm not, running into people. So, gotta keep the flexibility high.
No, I feel that. Go ahead.
Did you play basketball in high school?
I actually didn't. I played.
Really?
Funny story. I played in middle school and I dropped 6 points. That was my career high. 4 for 4 on the free throws. Just want to throw that out there.
Not at all like me then.
Kobe was
there
Shaq
you
at the
go.
line in middle school.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
You'll find this hard to believe, but Kobe had a short stint in his basketball career, and I was his middle school coach. Yeah, and he does actually hold the claim to fame. He did score 29 in a eighth grade game.
Yeah, 29.
7th grade game.
He probably fouled out
He
at
was
that
8th
game
grade.
too.
That was 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I also
Wow.
claimed the fame of probably getting the fastest 5 fouls that you have ever seen on the
Yes.
basketball court. So
Yeah.
Very physical player over there, huh?
The reason I asked because you said you played, or you're doing the conditioning, which is basketball is terrific for that. But
Yeah.
normally in the quarterback, when I think of a quarterback, I would have guessed that you would have played basketball.
Yeah, I really picked it up my freshman year in the PEEF, and started playing a lot better than I thought I could play, and then just kept running fives sophomore year, junior year, and really got into it. And it's just something to take my mind off of football and do something else.
Yeah, so, what I think's really good about that too is like obviously the conditioning aspect of it's great, but it's also like basketball and like any other sport really is just it's a different set of movements. You know what I mean? So like when you get specialized in a lot of things, I don't think there's not a lot of emphasis placed on this, and guys don't really understand, especially guys out of high school. But if you specialize in something and your muscles are so used to doing one movement over and over and over again, whenever you can mix that up, like that's the best thing you can do for yourself and your body. Yeah,
guys will start getting stiff. They'll start getting stiff and not being able to move as much. So if you kind of stay a little well-rounded, as best as you can, I think that's the most beneficial thing for you.
Yeah, I know, like Drew and I can say this. I'm sure you've been with guys like this too, who could just like lift you out of any freaking weight room, but then as soon as they get on the field, they can't move or like whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've met some guys over the years that are just squatting 600. You got guys benching 400, and it's just like, Jesus, he's going to be a freak on the field, and they get on the field, and it's just a whole different story.
A little disappointing. Yeah. But I did mention, after your freshman year, I mentioned, I actually didn't know this. So you lost, was it your entire sophomore year to an injury, and what was that?
Yeah. Well, funny story. I've told this story 5-6 times now.
Oh boy.
First play of the season, we had Jake May on at running back. The emphasis was to get the ball to him. Yeah. So we toss it, we pitch it, whatever. So I'm all right. Second play of the season. The drop back pass. I'm kind of like, what? Drop it back already. Let's do it.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Coach had told me after the play. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? There was an opening on the corner out, but I decided to take it and run. And I kind of flashed back to high school, try to put a little juke move on this linebacker, and it didn't work. He got his helmet into me. I didn't have a rib protector on. So you'll always see me wear a rib protector now. That's the reason. He got right into my right side rib cage, and I ended up trying to get back into the game. I was breathing like ridiculous. It was terrible, just wheezing. Lineman made me come out of the game. Went to the table. Ended up having 2 broken ribs, and then I came back into the training facility later that week after I had my X-rays and stuff, and I was out running, trying to get ready for. It was supposed to be a 2-week delay. I was going to get back on the field. Yeah. And then John comes running out to me. He's like, "Hey man, you got to go to the ER right now." I'm like, "What? What's going on, man? I'm trying to jog and throw and get back into this." And I ended up having a collapsed lung as well.
Holy cow!
So my lung was collapsed. I had a breathing tube that they put wrapped around my lung, and it was the whole season. It was pretty brutal. Walking around the classes up 3 flights of stairs with the breathing tube in.
Oh my gosh! And I'm assuming like Jamrick or somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's our business building. That's got a pretty dangerous flight of stairs there.
So that was tough. But then we came back and we beat McKendree first game of the year last year. So it was good to beat those guys.
I would say that had to feel good, especially coming off that. So I mean. Hey, kudos to you for overcoming that. I did not know that, so now I feel like I'm better for knowing that. How about I'm assuming you're watching that Ohio State Clemson game. What about? Did you feel that that hit against Justin Fields?
I felt it. I knew what he was going through, but
yeah,
obviously he's got 40 pounds on me, so he took it a little better than
That's true. I don't think people realize like his frame. He's a big dude. I didn't realize that either until I kind of looked at it.
That's the frame I'm trying to get to. He's like, I think he's 245. 245, I'm pushing 210
Justin Fields.
On a good day.
210?
210 now. I came in at 185. 185. So that's when I took the hit. I was about 185. I told him. So, yeah.
That's was going to be the next question for you is like, how have you approached anything differently? Obviously, like, putting on a little bit of weight, trying to add a little bit of, fill out that frame years a little bit. Have you approached anything else differently after going through all that process?
Approached anything differently as in like play
football, like football, like training and recovery, that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I put on, I'd say from my freshman to my junior year, I put on a good 35 pounds.
There you go.
And then I didn't slow down really because it's all lifting and it's muscle weight, so it's not slowing me down or anything.
That's important.
But after I took the hit, I was more emphasis on, hitting the check down, not running. But I'd like to say that I'm faster than people give me credit for.
Yeah.
So I try to flash it every now and then.
Sneaky athletic is what we say around here. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of protein shakes in the last 4 years. It's an absurd amount. An absurd amount of protein shakes. So that's how I approach it. Recovery wise, I do a lot of sauna sitting. I do a lot of jogging and rolling out and stuff like that. But
there you go. That's good to hear.
I'm sure you. Yeah.
Couple questions for you, RJ.
Yep.
Being a Wisconsin kid, you're used to the weather. I mean, Marquette obviously has its own issues in the wintertime, like I'm sure Wisconsin does. But how about now that you've been there for a while? What has surprised you about Marquette in a great way to say, I'm really glad that I came here in terms of just the city itself?
Yeah, I had never thought when I was a senior in high school. I'll throw it back here just a little bit. I only played my senior year in high school, which is already tough when you're looking for a school to go to in the recruiting process, because you only have 1 year of film, right? It's a school full of quarterbacks. The kid that started ahead of me 2 years, so I was a sophomore when he was starting. He's on the Jets, the New York Jets right now.
What?
And then
what's the name?
James Morgan. He plays for the Jets.
There you go.
James Morgan.
Yeah.
And then the kid that started when I was a junior, he played at Michigan Tech, Will Ark. And then
yep, I met Will.
And then I got my turn senior year, and then I ended up finding Northern. Luckily, it was like a week before signing day, and I got a message from JT and whatever. And then
that's unreal.
I didn't really know if it was the place for me. I saw the dome. The dome's always a cool thing to see.
Of course.
But knowing that it was 3 hours away was a big thing for me. But then going to school there, I loved it. There's the outdoors aspect to it. It's a huge thing. I'd say the program is very family oriented. They recruit a lot of guys that have connections with guys on the team, that know people on the team, which I really like. It's a really good family atmosphere. It's from when I've been to a freshman to a senior now. It's been a lot of family focused. So the team is a lot better than when I came in.
That's good.
Great. I was talking to Marcus the other day. We were working, and he's just, dude, we have 6 facilities compared to, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter the poll of the dome versus all these other places.
I have seen that. I see Isaiah's always retweeting those, trying to get our votes up.
Yeah, I mean, we made it to top 4. I mean, it looks like it's in the country too for D2.
I know, and now we're going up against, I think, was it like West Florida or something? And like they
won the national title.
Yeah, I was gonna say like their facilities. I mean, West Florida. I think it's
really
all you
I
have to
even
say.
sent that to Kobe, and I was like, "Oh, you guys lost."
Yeah. Yeah. When people think about Marquette, Michigan, you think, "Oh God, the snow, this, that."
Yeah.
But I mean, I love it up there. I do. I think it's a great place, and it's coming around the corner. We're gonna turn the corner here soon. So
I'm with that. I'm I think so. I think we got a lot of talent, especially coming in. I know we've got. I was talking to Nystrom, and we were talking to the Coach Burton, who had joined us a little earlier about the recruiting and all of that. And Nystrom was telling me like he just doesn't want to do a lot of guesswork, and I kind of just reiterate that like. He doesn't get a chance to meet a lot of these guys he's recruiting this year because with the COVID and everything going on. So a lot of our talent's going to be coming from the transfer portal. We've got obviously some kids coming out of high school as well. So hopefully looking to definitely increase on that record and just kind of, trending upwards at NMU.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like the transfers that we're getting right now. I don't know how many we've gotten this year, but it's more than usual. And I've met most of these guys and they have a connection with, a kind of a leader of a position group. You know what I'm saying? Like they know a lot of, the good in the program, and it's only making it better because usually when somebody gets recommended by somebody that's been here for a while, it's a good recommendation. So the transfers they're awesome so far from what I've met. So
that's good.
It's only getting better.
I talked with Coach Jurison. We had him on the show. It was like a week or two ago, probably.
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, Coach Jurison. And he was talking about just the competition in that quarterback room that you guys have. And I'm sure, between him and you both are excited about the talent that you guys have gotten there. But, how has that been competing, and how does that force you to really just to up your game going into this year?
Yeah, coming into my freshman year, I got into the quarterback room, and obviously you said I started 8 games my freshman year. And
yeah.
You can already tell, a kid coming out of high school, he's only had 1 year of varsity football.
That's so crazy now that you put it like
he
that.
Weighs 185 pounds, and he gets to play 8 games and start on homecoming.
Man,
the competition was not going to knock myself down, but the competition was not as good as it is now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I got you.
And regarding the competition in the room right now, it's a lot of fun. We all get along. It's only elevated my game and everybody else's game because I think personally I had the 10 practices that we had this year. I've had my best showing, and that's
Good.
only because of the competition, I think, and getting older and stuff like that. So I think it has to do with the people in the quarterback room.
That's good. Yeah.
The willingness to learn and be the guy and have that confidence and just get along with everybody. It's just been it's been a blessing. It's been really good. So it's a lot better again than 3 years ago.
Hey,
so
that's good to hear.
Continuing to grow in that space.
Yeah. So RJ, obviously I've been kind of in the middle of this little rivalry we have on set. Hunter Chambers, who's usually on, is a Michigan Tech offensive lineman. Kobe,
yeah, he's usually with Drew and I here. He's
and
in
Kobe obviously at Northern. And even when I was getting recruited by both schools, you could just tell that the rivalry is just so, like, it really tears both, like, to the core. It's to the core for both teams. So for you, you've played in the game, what does the rivalry say to you? And obviously, looking at past results, Tech has your number. What do you guys think that you need to do better to get that dub?
Yeah, well, that's an easy answer. I've spent a lot of time on trying to actually embrace the rivalry, and I feel after playing in 2 of those games now, and knowing their opposing quarterback, it only amplifies the rivalry.
Oh, for sure.
For me, I know we've dropped the last 10, but it really comes down to 100%. Every game I've played in against these guys has been back and forth until the last 2 minutes of the game. And that's how it's going to continue to be. And I think really embracing our fourth quarter program and capitalizing in the fourth quarter is the biggest thing to taking the UP. It's a huge battle. It's a battle for the UP. It's a rivalry like any other. There's two Division II teams in the UP, really 2 college football teams in the UP.
Yeah, I mean, and, Finlandia, I guess.
Do they have a football team? Come on, Kobe. Gosh. D3, people don't take D3 seriously. Kobe.
Hey, what were you saying, RJ? Do they have a football team? I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, they do.
They do?
Yeah. They do have a football team. Yes, I'm wrong on that one. But I think just being the champs of the UP just says enough. I mean, it's a huge rivalry. It's a game that make or break your season,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because the records go out at that point. It's about Michigan Tech versus Northern.
Yeah, and Hunter will remind me every single time he's here. I mean, whenever we talk to anybody from Northern, he's always chirping in with his little...
Yeah. And then if you think about this last season, I don't remember our record going into the game. It was obviously 1 something, and they were 3, maybe 2 or 3 and something. And
about 500,
for a game like that, for a game like that to even get the ESPN3 coverage already tells you enough about the rivalry.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
You're not going to see a lot of 1 and something and 500 teams playing on ESPN3 unless it's a big time rivalry. And that already.
Well, if Michigan would have played Ohio State this year, it probably could have maybe.
Then it could have been a 1 and something team on ESPN.
yeah. That would have been another one there for you. But, I mean, especially
awesome.
at the D2 level, you're not going to get a lot of coverage like that. So.
Yeah. And we were talking about, that competition in the quarterback room. That's why I'm super excited is because I come in and obviously we've got DeAndre who is, he's in his 5th year, right? Caldwell's in his 5th year?
4.
He's only his 4th year. Okay.
Same year as me.
Okay, good. Yeah. So obviously we have him and then Tyshawn on the younger side of things, who is a true sophomore.
Yep.
And so now I get to come in and learn behind these 2 guys. And then we've got Taekwon and Cullen, who kind of, they're in that running back room, but it's very different play styles than someone like me who's between the tackles. I'm not going to go beat somebody on a seam route down the middle of the field. That's just not my game. But I'm excited for all of that anyways. But we were talking I know Drew has, started to heard some news about like the spring and what we're going to be doing, and we talked with Coach Burton about it a little bit. I just really hope. I think we're going to get a chance to play Tech in the spring, and that will be, even though it's going to be technically a scrimmage. I think the energy level will be just about the same.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, scrimmage or not, that game that's going to mean something. There's going to be helmets clashing. I can tell you that. And hey, don't count yourself out on that team pass yet. I might, give you a little audible there. You never know. I might have to send you up the team. Hey,
he's got much better hands. He's got much better hands now than he was as a 10th grader.
If the defense run commits you, he might have a shot of outbeating a D lineman.
So hey, whatever. Hey, if you're faster than that guy, that linebacker right across from you, you never know.
I'm teasing.
So two things just came to mind, RJ. One, I don't know if you saw, but forget his first name. Is it Jack Cohn from Wisconsin? I just saw he's leaving Wisconsin, going to Notre Dame.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yep, he's going to Notre Dame.
He's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, he surprisingly they brought in that 4-star Graham Mertz, I believe.
Yeah, who was perfect in his debut and then had COVID and all that.
That's losing Ian Book though. That's a big get for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and then he kind of fell off, and Wisconsin, their quarterbacks are, ever since Russell Wilson, they've been system guys. They've been turn around, hand the ball off, or beat him into play action. And it's not a flashy game, but Jack Cohn, he really operated it well. And I think whatever they put on his plate, I think he's a good quarterback. He's a big-time quarterback. I think he's out of New Jersey or New York, something up on the East
Coast over there. Huh?
Yeah, well, I went to the Michigan-Wisconsin game, and it couldn't get much worse than Hornibrook. He was really bad.
Oh man, he transferred to Florida State. I don't think that worked out for him.
He's a lefty.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's interesting, because I think Mertz kind of gets away from that play action, turn around, hand the ball off. I think he was a little bit more lights out, showtime type quarterback, at least from what we saw from him, which was kind of got to be a little bit limited. But I'm excited to see what he does for them.
So RJ,
I am too. Yeah.
What are you getting your degree in?
Yeah, good question.
I'm getting my degree in finance and risk management.
Oh, okay. And what's your career aspiration when you're done?
Something with advising, most likely.
Same
it depends on these next. I got 2 years of eligibility, so I can either double major or I can work on a MBA. So we'll see. It's going to be in the advising field, most likely. Or it depends on if I would end up double majoring and then focus on something else. But I'm really, really getting into the financial advising and then the risk management part of it. So we'll see. We'll see where I got to get an internship. It's hard to get an internship when you're focused and wrapped up in football and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it takes a lot of your energy away.
Yeah. I'll the next 2 years are going to be big for me and getting experience and stuff like that. So, but the football part of it is always good for connections, and it's really good for connections and stuff like that. So I actually live with two guys that are they already got jobs. Connor Brunius and Trevor Roberts. I don't think they're going to be playing anymore just because of this COVID stuff. But they've got jobs already just from football connections. So,
that's good.
You bring that up.
Northern's got a lot of good stuff.
RJ, you bring that up, and honestly, at Northwood, we kind of have like the similar type of the career ending, I guess. When you get jobs, like there's times where you get such a good job opportunity, whether it's in the business field or it's like whatever you want to do.
Or whatever,
Do you see, like, especially with this COVID, you being a player who's obviously played multiple years at Northern, do you just see guys in general from the GLIAC where it's like, man, I'm not going to the NFL. Maybe I should start this, get my career path going rather than, man, I want to play one more year where I could potentially get hurt.
Yeah, see, that's the conversation that those guys have been, the guys that I live with have been talking to me about. They want to get into the field. Me personally, I like football, and you only get it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very true.
I'm going to continue to take up every year of eligibility I can. I still have, the aspirations of playing after college.
There you go.
But whatever kind of goals you have, I think it really depends on if you want to get into a field right away, which is a best fit. I mean, who doesn't want to get into a career field at 22 and have a full-time job? But I mean, it depends on the person if they want to stick those years of eligibility out. But with this COVID stuff going on, I think it's you got more than 50% of people just saying, I want to get into the workforce and stuff like that. So
that's a big number. I guess I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say from what I've seen, 50% is a good. There's been a couple right tackle, couple guards that I've had over the years that have just left their junior year. Like, they could have stuck it out and played another one, but they decided to go get jobs and stuff. But
interesting.
It hurts, but the next man up, right?
Yeah.
As a washed up athlete myself, I tell my boys, play them now, play them as long as you can.
Yes.
Right?
Good point. Yeah.
Exactly. You can't get enough of it because it keeps you in shape. It keeps you. For me personally, this COVID stuff has kind of worsened my schedule a little bit. I like being extremely busy.
Agreed.
Practice, school,
Agreed.
this, that, and the other, and not having the football aspect of it. Has kind of almost slowed me down. I'm laying in bed listening to Zoom. I'm like, geez, it's a lazy routine, and
Totally.
having football and stuff like that, it benefits my life and my productivity.
100% with you there,
so
dude.
I enjoy having a football schedule, so I'm going to keep it as long as I can.
Of course. Well, I'm excited to get back up to Marquette with you, my guy. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me, and it was nice meeting you guys, and I'll see you up in Marquette.
Yeah, you too. Can't wait. Number 19.
Yeah, number 19.
Good luck this year.
So, yep, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
See you, RJ. Thank you. RJ, what a guy.
Yeah, that was a really good conversation. Obviously, we have a new RJ fan in the building.
We do. Jim Manzo.
Yep.
Big RJ guy now.
Big fan of number 19.
There you go. Let's talk about some college football, the national championship, Ohio State, Alabama. You said the game is on for Monday, right? You said that earlier?
Yeah. I saw
you
saw
said that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I wanted to touch on it. Ohio State, they have been claiming to have some issues with COVID, potentially a whole position group having to sit out, and Nick Saban's daughter did not like the sound of that. She went out and tweeted, Kristen, her name is, by the way, who has since deleted her entire Twitter account because of the hate. And apologized publicly. But that does not take away the fact that she said, quote, if you're not confident to play, then say it, in capitals. I call BS on the COVID cases. They're just worried about their QB and want him to have more time to heal. If he's hurt, put in your backup. You didn't see us, Alabama, postpone the rest of our season to wait for Waddle. Bye.
That's awesome. I love that.
Bye.
She's not too competitive.
I mean,
that household has got to be something else. Especially when he's like coaching from home. Remember that?
Gosh.
That household had to be
said he yelled
electric.
at the TV multiple times.
It sounds like somebody else.
I think someone else did too.
It keeps coming back to Lion talk, but after the roughing the passer call on Cousins,
how
does someone from the Lions organization not come out the next day, put some cameras in front of me, and I'm going to tell the NFL that I'm tired of our organization being just. Yeah,
as much as Joe Judge got a lot of crap for what he said, at least he was like, I'm pissed.
But he tried to spin it like we'll never do that as
I know, but still, but at least he came out
and
said it. The Lions have never had a guy like that.
But let's talk about this game, Ohio State, Alabama. Hopefully, I mean, for the sake of everything, you do not want an asterisk like up next to the national champion, right? So you want both teams at full strength for this game, right?
Well, Alabama's not going to be at full strength if Waddle doesn't play. So
that's a great point. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully he's back. He has been medically cleared, so now it's a matter of if he's actually. Because medically cleared and being able to play at this high of a level are two very different things.
This is where if they had the full 2 weeks in between like they normally do.
Exactly. Their whole schedule has been totally compressed.
Mm-hmm. Which now, I mean, is the game outdoors, did I see?
No, it's in Miami. So it is.
It said something.
Hard
Miami
Rock?
Gardens or
Hard
something?
Rock.
Is it Hard Rock?
Stadium.
That's the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Well, then it's definitely outside.
Why don't I look that up real quick while we talk about it?
But overall, I'm looking at this game where I think Ohio State's defense is going to be tested, unlike any offense I've played. With Clemson, I didn't really see any outside playmakers as much as you're going to see this week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, you had a great quarterback.
It is
Trevor Lawrence.
It's Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. I don't know why it's like.
But that's
together.
where the Dolphins
That must be Miami Gardens.
It's like Rochester and Rochester Hills.
Yeah, I don't know, but either way, it is in Hard Rock Stadium. The championship
it's outdoors.
Yeah.
That's interesting that they would battle the chance or take the chance of.
Think about it like
elements.
this: COVID. How much easier it would be to an
outdoor
stadium.
Outdoor stadiums.
Yeah,
I'm sure that had a huge part to play. Well,
that's
going to double your revenue.
I guess my question is then what's the harm and giving the regular 2 weeks if there was any issues, or why didn't they keep it that the games would be 2 weeks apart?
Isn't the
Is it just because everything started so much later this year?
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like
assuming the schedule
Normally in
literally
the
just got
college
pushed
football
back.
playoff there was 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I think it was for
say
the
that.
BCS. There was 2 weeks. I think it was always 1 week for the
maybe.
playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if
The
for the
BCS
playoffs.
was
I want to say it was
because I
only a
do
week.
remember what you're saying. How the BCS was always later than everything else.
Don't get me wrong. There's too much games in domes. I'm glad they're playing outside.
Yeah, and I think the COVID thing probably had a huge part to do with it because that's going to be so much more revenue for them.
I officially have. It wouldn't matter what I said about the pick on this game because I thought Clemson would destroy.
So
And I still can't get over the fact that
I.
Hunter said he's going to turn it off at halftime for Clemson. It's hilarious.
But yeah, back to what I was saying. I think Clemson didn't have the playmakers that Alabama does, and I think Ohio State's defense is going to be tested.
Agreed.
But I was way off on the last
And
one. So
yeah, like Justin
and
Fields.
Fields healthy.
Yeah, it's Fields, that hit that he took. We talked to RJ about it. I mean, geez, first of all, the injury that happened to RJ.
That's
What
coming.
the hell?
He's had a game. They played last Saturday, Monday. So you're talking 8 or 9 days.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Which
tough.
sounds
He
like
is the
it sounds like a
toughest
long
guy.
time.
he's the toughest guy to ever put a football jersey on.
Yeah, he
according to
might be
social
if he
media.
comes out. Might be if he comes out and balls out again because that Clemson defense I thought was going to be what held Ohio State back in that semifinal game, and it was for me.
Well, if Alabama plays anything like Northwestern, they might have a shot.
That's exactly what I was saying. They only put up 22 points in the Big Ten championship.
He probably played himself back into the first round with that performance last
because
week.
when you look at the level of play, that's what I was saying. Like when you shows out against the Clemson defense, like that meant so much for his draft stock.
Would you take Fields or Zach Wilson?
Definitely Fields. He's proven
Just
against
size alone, but
I
I wouldn't
frame
take either of
too.
them at 2.
I wouldn't take either of them.
No way.
At 2 either.
I know.
On the Jets, I'm looking at what I'm going to do to build Sam Darnold for 1 more year.
Really?
Yeah. That's
What
I think.
year is he in? Darnold, is it 4?
His 4th year. He's
Fourth year.
the same draft class as Allen, Baker, and Lamar.
There you go. Very interesting. But definitely looking forward to that game. We'll get our picks here pretty soon. But before we do that, let's talk about that Heisman ceremony that we all watched together, actually. Devontae Smith with the Heisman win, the wide receiver from Alabama. And it felt great to see a non-quarterback win the award. But I will say, the way Dabo put it is that says something along the lines of, like, it'd be a shame if the Heisman doesn't attach itself to Trevor Lawrence in his time at Clemson. Totally agree with that.
I was just
and
gonna
it
say.
sucks because it's great to see a different positional player win the award, especially as a deserving one as Devontae Smith. But Trevor Lawrence not winning a Heisman, unreal.
It's really crazy to see that. Wow, Clemson's gone from Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence, and they didn't have a Heisman,
right?
Like
that's just something else.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
Both had national championships, which I'd take a national championship over a Heisman any day.
That's a great point, too, is like what at the end of the day, yeah. So, but then you look at who's beat him. Devontae Smith, a very deserving year last year with
and Trevor
Joe
Lawrence
Burrow.
was out with COVID.
Yeah.
I was going to do some research before we got on, but Smith is a senior, right?
Yes.
So when is the last – I'd like to know in the last decade.
When was the last senior to win the award?
Yeah, because most of them leave before because they're really good, obviously, and they
That's a good
are
point.
gone after their sophomore year, maybe stick around for their junior year. But how many seniors have won the Heisman the last I'd even like to find out maybe 15
What's
years.
interesting, too, is that
Just think about
Smith,
it, Manziel, RG3, Kyler, Lamar.
Gone early.
Yeah, they all left early.
Devontae Smith is still below a name that a lot of people have forgot about, Jamar Chase, on a lot of draft boards.
LSU.
Which is very interesting. Imagine the impact he would have had this year for that LSU team.
Well, they needed someone to throw him the ball, and they didn't figure out who that was going to be till the last game.
That's true, the freshman, right? But you never know. That season could have gone a lot different for them with not only with the wide receiver like that. I'm assuming he was a great leader for that team, and having
he got
the
awarded
experience,
number 7.
having the experience to go on that championship run with them and Burrow and all those guys. So
college athletics needs more of that. I know they've gone back and forth with college basketball with the one and done and all that kind of stuff, but I'd be lying if I said it's not, or it is nice in March to watch a group of seniors that stuck it out in basketball in the tournament. You say, look at that team.
That was Michigan State.
They stuck it out and stayed together, and it makes sense because they.
And a lot of those guys probably did not have the talent to go after 1 year or 2 years.
So some of them did. I mean, I feel like even though Miles Bridges was like, he stayed. I mean, he felt like it was
Jaren
like
Jackson.
kind of a senior year almost, but even though it wasn't.
But even look at on a smaller scale, we just heard one of our guests today say, he had to wait to play in high school.
Yeah.
At a quarterback rich or laden school.
Only played his
Mac
senior
Jones
year.
is a senior
There
year.
was
this
another
year.
one.
And
Trask.
Crazy.
Trask too, yeah.
Crazy.
And you think
and
about
they
it.
didn't think, honestly, before this season, Trask was not going to be the guy for Florida. It was the guy who came in. They kind of did that little weird switch
last
off.
year, and then all of a
he
sudden
was supposed to
tore
be
it
the
up.
future of Florida. So we'll see next year if that comes in. And Trask, with being one of the Heisman candidates as well, to have that great of a breakout season.
Jalen Hurts is
year.
also a senior, so he was
okay.
But he transferred.
As much as we belly ached and I was moaning and groaning about just give the award out, it was actually neat hearing some of the stories on those.
Oh, it was a great ceremony, but they do drag it out
Yeah.
so unnecessarily long.
It
every
doesn't need to
single
be
year.
an hour.
They give every kid a segment, and they give the parents a segment, and
You know who else got a segment?
Trevor's girlfriend,
Fiance.
Oh, much needed.
I'll be the first one that would say I'm not complaining, but like, what? Nobody else's significant others got screen time like that, and they talk to her, and then
two of them got out of
everything.
practice.
That's true.
So
that's true. So that, and then the thing I guess actually is a good point is that the Alabama guys were together or were kind of isolated because they're still playing for something.
Yeah.
So then you look at Trask and Lawrence, and they're with their families and everybody because I was sitting there. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, oh, they're done.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Trevor's not playing for anything anymore. It kind of took me a minute to realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's honestly back to the whole Trevor thing, and I really thought this was funny. College football on Fox tweeted or posted this that they're like it was the third non-quarterback to win the Heisman last since 2000, and people are like, well, actually, because they were like Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, and Devontae. They're like, wow, they all went to Alabama, and the number one comment was, Reggie Bush did win a Heisman, right? Like he didn't die, and they were. It's just the fact that they're not appreciating Reggie Bush and just how dominant he was. And I understand everything, but still, I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, with the whole debacle with him, and that's been kind of resolved.
Yeah, he's allowed to go to the games now.
I was to say, but now I don't know if it's been official.
Yeah.
It's still a weird relationship.
It's the whole Chris Webber thing with Michigan.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But let's finish off today's episode with a bit of game picks. Start with the NFL.
Start with the national title.
Oh, you want to start with the college?
National title, yeah.
Let's start with that. Sorry, I didn't have it written down. So, I mean, like I said, we're all very wrong about Clemson. That has not changed my mind whatsoever about Alabama. The fact that they walked off that field and they were pissed off that they let up 14 points against a solid Notre Dame team. Bama.
Yeah, I agree.
Alabama.
Okay, I just want to get this one out of the way.
Let's talk about the NFL Super Wildcard Weekend. First, we have the Colts versus the Bills. Bills with that AFC East clinch. They're going to be hosting this game. This is going to be, I will say, I like we talked about earlier, might be a little bit of a trap game for Buffalo. I still think they come out with the win.
I agree. I think you said it earlier. I don't think Philip Rivers has the firepower to stay in that game with Josh Allen, even though I really think that the Colts are starting to pick up the run game. Jonathan Taylor had 250 yards rushing last week. I just don't think that it's going to be able to keep up with Josh and Diggs.
And
no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
That's a terrible expression because circling the wagons implies that this is the end of the road and we need one final stand.
Week too, which is exactly why I said it again.
Yeah.
And you're wrong again.
Give me the Bills. Next pick.
Go ahead. We have the Rams at the Seahawks in an NFC West rematch. I'm taking the Seahawks. I don't see the Rams, especially with Jared Goff questionable. I don't see the Rams having success against them in the playoffs. Honestly, I'm surprised they even made it.
I say this one's a really close game, but because of how I'm uncertain about Jared Goff and how Seattle's defense is playing a lot better, I got to go with Seattle.
Yeah, they're heating up at just the right time. Although we'll say, is Jamal Adams?
They said he was questionable, but knowing Jamal Adams and how much this means really to him, I mean, you've seen him on social media be like, "We made the playoffs."
He's from the all Jets. In on this.
He's gonna be all right. Yeah, I think.
Rams.
Oh, okay. Why would you say?
Is that all you're gonna say? Or you're gonna go ahead and elaborate?
I just think their defense is the best in football.
I would agree with that. I really do.
The best in football?
Yeah. They have the two best. I think they have the two best defensive players in football right now.
Who?
I think,
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald's the best.
Okay, that's fair.
And Jalen Ramsey's the best corner in the league.
Jalen Ramsey's still the best corner?
He shut down.
He's good.
He shut down
very good
twice.
He's very. We've had a couple guys shut down Hopkins.
I am.
He shut down Metcalf once.
And I think it's
they have more weapons than Metcalf, though. That's
depending on Goff's situation too. I think it's important that the Wolford that he got a chance to get his feet wet. He played a full game.
Threw an interception. Okay, let's move on
and a couple
to
touchdowns.
Buccaneers versus Washington.
I want you to start with this one.
Alex Smith is questionable for this one. I think that has a lot to determine our picks, but go ahead.
Washington football team.
Oh, yeah? I knew it.
There you go. I'll take the Buccaneers. Thank you.
I will too, because I really think that everyone's like, oh, it's Rodgers versus Mahomes, or it's Breeze versus Mahomes, or it's whatever.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's like, I'm still Tom Brady.
Saturday night.
So what the pick will be interesting if the Bucs do pull this one out is if they have to go to Green Bay now.
Yeah.
I will say they beat up Green Bay earlier in the year, but Green Bay was playing a very different brand of football. So very interesting matchup.
If they have to go to the Saints are playing a very different brand of football than they were.
They are. So
I feel like the Saints are that team that's I don't think they're going to be that good in the playoffs.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, I guess let's go right to them then. The Bears versus Saints. Saints hosting.
Oh, I'll still pick the Saints to beat the Bears.
I'm going to say I'm not taking the Bears at any type of playoff contention, especially the way they ended the year, getting blown out. Maybe that lights the fire underneath them. I doubt it. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Saints.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Ravens versus Titans. This one I think will be a very competitive one.
I'll go last. I want to hear what you guys say.
I'm gonna start off with the Titans. I feel like that's the obvious pick, although I will say the Ravens, I think the line is really close on this one. If we're looking at like betting, I think the line is actually pretty close because of the way that the Ravens play and their ability to stay in games. But
I almost feel like the whole Ravens team and that concept of how they play, they're like hanging on a thread.
Yeah.
I almost feel like they are what they are, and you're not going to get.
That's why I think that comes from Harbaugh too. The image that he has.
He does a great job, but I think the Titans have a way higher ceiling. And talk about like when we said we'll get to the Browns in a minute, but the Titans are trying to show now that what happened last year wasn't a fluke, and they're going to build. Usually teams build upon. I'll take Tennessee.
This one pains for me to say, just because I can't stand the Ravens, but I really feel like the Ravens they're so much better when they're not under pressure. The Ravens, like you said with the Browns, have nothing to lose now. Yeah.
That's very true because they've already made it this far. Yep. But then again, I would say there's a lot of pressure maybe not on the team, but on Lamar. I would say there is a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson
so
to get a big win.
I just really think that what's going to happen in this game is the Ravens are pissed. They lost to the Titans this year. They lost to the Titans last year. And I just think that added momentum where they're like, we're an underdog and we know it.
The Titans did not finish the season off very convincingly with that narrow win over the Texans.
And that's why I think I'm picking the Ravens. I think after watching the Browns play both these games, just so I've seen them both play.
One in person.
I think the Ravens are better than the Titans.
There you go. We'll finish it off. Browns versus Steelers.
Did you get breaking news?
No.
What?
He said the Ravens are better than the Titans.
I think they're playing better right now.
That's
what I would correct. Yeah, I think they're playing better right now.
Let's talk Browns versus Steelers. Why don't you start us off?
Well, I'm very concerned that Stefanski is not calling the plays.
Agreed.
But I just think they're going to play loose, and like Drew said, they can run the ball.
Yeah, there's no way I can pick Steelers. I find myself being less and less of a fan of them every day.
I was very concerned the way that game ended last week.
Yeah,
they were 24-9 in the fourth quarter, and you got to stop a 2-point play with a guy that hasn't played quarterback.
And they scored on a 4th and 10.
God knows how long.
They did score on a long touchdown on a 4th and 10.
Who was the pressure on that week? And I think the roles are reversed now.
I agree.
And you talk about a team that I say the Ravens are. I mean, that whole conference you might see turn upside down over the next couple of years with Burrow and Mayfield.
That's a good point. If he's healthy.
I think the Steelers are, not to get on what you're saying, I think the Steelers should be on the lookout for those 3 teams to take control of the division the next couple of years.
That's what I mean. I think it could flip right around.
I'd agree. So game pick then.
Browns.
Oh, there we go. Browns.
I'm not going to lie, until when Stefanski was out, I literally sat there for a good hour. My dad was joking with me like, ooh, I don't know about this one anymore, man. Like, my mom was like, nobody picked them to be here. They're not supposed to be here.
Oh, my God.
Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're right. And then Juju said that, and I was like, oh, we're winning this game.
You weren't going to pick the Steelers.
I wasn't going to anyway, but now I really believe we're going to because Juju said that.
I really am not a fan of the Steelers. I really feel like I should just go with them, though. And I do not really enjoy a lot of the people on that team.
I don't like anyone.
Is that the Saturday night game?
It's a Sunday night game, last game of the week.
Sunday night game.
So...
And Denzel
I'll go.
Another thing could be the weather, too.
I'll go back with the Browns. I'll go with the Browns as well, then. We'll go clean sweep right there. But that's all we've got for today. It's a good one.
Oh, we missed a game.
No. Listen to this report.
No, we didn't. That's it.
OBJ says that, or it came out that OBJ was the big part of the 2019 dysfunction. To fix it, is he went into the meeting, cleared the air with coaches, players, and top of the execs.
Browns.
I feel like that was feel like that was the last person I expected to do all that.
Yeah.
I feel like he was the cause of most of it.
He probably was. Yeah.
But he went, apparently the report is that he came. Yeah.
Good for him. But that's all we've got for today for Division 1 rejects. Excuse me. Got some
for you to say.
Big time guests coming on next week. So be looking forward to that. I know I am. But find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Appreciate you listening and have a great week.